In this video, we're going to be beating all the challenges in Nightmare difficulty in SpongeBob Tower Defense with only common units. These common units are leveled up to level 100. Shiny Wumbo, 5-star with secret formula to make this challenge possible. But honestly, it's difficult. Real difficult. So come with me and watch my journey. But before we begin, I just want to remind you, if you like the store content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a ton. And also join in our live streams. We do giveaways, we hang out, we have a great time. But let's get right into it. All right, for this video, we're going to be doing this from easiest to hardest for the challenges, and modifiers I'm not going to really be paying too much attention to, but although they did have an effect on how difficult the challenges are, I'm just going off whatever modifiers I got at the time and whatever ones were possible, because in the grand scheme of things, they are still possible. But by far the most easiest challenge was definitely Mrs. Possibility School. Oh my god, this challenge was a cakewalk. First of all, is this figure 8 right here. I have to bring it up because it is by far the largest choke point in probably the whole game. All the units are confined in that figure 8 for such a long time. And if you have a slowing unit that is just constantly slowing them down, like Gary, for example, on our team, they can't move and you're just constantly dealing damage to them if you just spam all your units over there. So that's exactly what we did with our SpongeBobs and Sandys, Squidwards and Patricks, all within that figure 8, doing damage to all the units there. It just made it so much easier, and there's really not much more you really need to do. Just keep all your units there, just kind of manage the speed, because like common units are all line and like splash damage and tend to miss more. So if you do it at like 1x speed, it shouldn't be any problem. It would be slow, but I had this done within 8 minutes, which honestly, for some of the other challenges you're going to see further into this video, is not that bad. Let's move on to the next challenge. All right, this is where the difficulty starts to ramp up a little bit. Not much, but a little bit, enough to make an impact, because we got 2 lanes to worry about. I know it can all be confined into one individual lane, but what the strategy I found that worked the best was actually kind of splitting up my units between the 2 lanes. I have like my SpongeBob's, Patrick's, and Sandy's in the main 2 lanes, like the main middle lane and the lane that goes off into the exit, kind of defending there, because that's where a lot of the units will go, and those are a lot of my more powerful attackers. While I have some more Sandy's and Gary's and Squidward set up on the far left lane, where not as many units come in, but still powerful enough units that they make an impact, that I'd rather have a separate team focused on them to at least weaken them down so my stronger units can go and finish them off. It's not too bad once you get that strategy down. I did struggle on the first attempt where I just spammed all my units towards the center, which wasn't the strategy to go for, so splitting up your team here is definitely the best bet to go. In terms of like the modifiers I got, it was the speedy and the shield ones, which, for considering like how like weak the enemies on this level typically are, wasn't terrible. They can be powerful and they can be a nuisance, but honestly a lot of the units in this level are more focused on speed, so you just kind of got to micromanage the 1x speed to make sure that your units are actually hitting your shots once again, because that is the biggest weakness of these units, is sometimes they will completely miss their shots. With them being 5-star Shiny Wumbo, their damage isn't terrible. Like, of course there's a lot better units in the game that deals damage, but like it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. But overall, this level wasn't too bad. Didn't cause me too much headache. I did have to restart one time, but after that, I got it done within 8 minutes, and it was pretty easy once I figured out the strategy. So let's move on to the next level. The jump from Flying Dutchman to Patty Vault was immense. This was a huge difficulty spike, and I had a learning curve to get by, because I cannot just spam all my units at the start. No, I had to spread out my units a lot more, and that's what I did on my next attempt after failing so miserably on one of my attempts and losing 15 minutes of my time. So what I did was I had all my SpongeBobs and Patricks set up towards the start, so they'll hit both the start and the very end of the track if something sneaks by. My SpongeBob was more focused on taking out a lot of the higher health enemies, since his single target damage is probably the best out of all my common units. And while I have my Patricks more focused on doing some area damage if they manage to hit their splash. since a lot of the enemies will just be confined to that beginning part, and they should be able to hit most, if not all, of their splashes. Then with the Sandies and Squidwards, I spread them out throughout the map, so they're taking care of a lot of the smaller units in the tankier units that managed to sneak by my frontline defense. This worked immensely well, and I did not manage to take a single bit of damage in the next attempt. Granted, that was one of the modifiers. And of course, lower cash was the other modifier. With like weaker units on this level, this actually goes for any players. You should spread out your units throughout Patty Vault. It is such a large map that if you can get like basically full map coverage with your units and spacing them out properly, you should be able to beat this level that fine. That is the best way you can beat this level with such weak units, and it made it not too bad. Like, the difficulty is definitely there, but it's not too bad once you just figure out how to space out your units and how to beat it properly. And really, that's all I gotta say about this level. Just space out your units properly, micromanage your 1x and 5x speed in case units tend to sneak by and you need your comets to hit more of their shots. Slowing it down to 1x will make them hit it more. I will reiterate that time and time again. But that's all I really have to say about this level. Let's move on to the next one. Oh boy, Christmas Conch. Honestly, wasn't terrible. I am putting it out worse than it probably is with other modifiers, but the modifiers I did it with was low cash and no like special abilities. So our secret formula on our units was practically gone, which made this level 10 times harder. I had to micromanage so hard with the 1x and higher speeds, because if I messed up, if I let one unit slide past, there would not kill it at all. The best spot I found to set up is right by the giant coral tree over on the far side of the map. Yes, it is really close to the end spawn, but it will provide the longest stretch in which you can deal with the enemies. And with using units with such short range, I felt like placing them there was the best spot. So I spread out all my units throughout there, placing Gary's on all 4 of the corners of the square where the tree is, and then kind of spreading my units throughout, since most of them were able to cover the whole map, especially like Patrick, who had the longest range of all the common units, and just kind of like micromanage the my speed and such in the units, making sure that all the enemies were being taken out. Honestly, it wasn't like hard persuade. It took me multiple attempts, but like it just was long and tedious. This process took forever and was really difficult. The strategy, I'm glad like I had a basic idea of how this map worked beforehand, because oh my god, without it I would have struggled a lot more. And like with the other strategies, just keeping in mind that your units are going to miss a lot more. Honestly, while I'm talking about that, the unit that missed the least was probably Sandy. She did the most consistent DPS of all the common units. SpongeBob was a close second, then Gary, then Squidward, then Patrick. Patrick just always missed. But like overall, it just boiled down to following the similar strategies we said in the previous levels, with just micromanaging your speed and stuff like that. And then eventually, after nearly 20 minutes on this level, I beat it. It took forever. Every attempt of it took forever. It was a hard level, but it just was using the same strategies we brought up throughout the video. So let's move on to the final one. And if you haven't guessed, it is the most tedious of them all. Oh my god, Goo Lagoon. This level was a pain, and I went through multiple attempts trying to figure out the right strategy, and eventually I did. It boiled down to this. On the first island right by where the enemy spawned, I placed SpongeBob's and Squidward's, since they are consistent, high damaging line. I set them to strongers later in the wave so they focus down and deal a lot of damage to the bosses and a lot of the high health enemies like the chum enemies and such that would overrun me all the time. This helped immensely with a lot of that. In order to deal with the smaller enemies and the more speedier enemies, I play Sandy's and Patrick's, since Sandy's are really good at taking them out, and I just needed a spot to use Patrick, and it was the most effective spot, since the spot where I placed Sandy had the most range and Patrick was able to hit pretty much that whole loop that they were on. With the Garys, I spaced them out throughout the islands and spots they're at, so they're constantly applying slow to the enemies, and so I can get the most DPS possible out of my units. From there, it's just more or less keeping at 1x speed and just paying close attention. At the very end, I did have to move my SpongeBobs to finish off the boss, since he would have gone through otherwise and would have killed me instantly, as seen in the Patty Vault when I don't pay attention to the boss. Overall, it was hard, it was long, it was tedious. I do not recommend it, but oh my god, it's somehow possible. I can't believe I managed to find a way to do it, and I am so immensely happy that I did. So let's go ahead and go over all the challenges and wrap this video up, hopefully in a nice, neat bow. So there you have it, every challenge completed on Nightmare difficulty with only common units. Honestly, this was a fun challenge and very unique, and I had a lot of fun doing it. Of course, I did use Krusty Krab and pets throughout all the levels, but I will be honest, on the levels that nerf gold progression, I didn't bother using the Krusty Krab since it was just too much of a hassle to focus down and upgrade it. I just found that interesting, and I figured I'd share it with you here. But that's all I have for you guys today. So if you learned something, if you had a good time, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a ton. But that's all I have for you guys today. So I hope you have an amazing day or night, and I will catch you in the next video. Goodbye.